at my internet because they made it worse. They made it way worse. It's way worse now. I have less ping to Dallas than New York. New York went from 40 milliseconds to 100. On top of the fact that the internet just went out yesterday too. So not only did I not have internet for a few hours, when it comes back, it's worse than it's ever been in terms of latency. When I've already seen people that get better pings than I do to both New York and Dallas at the same time. Like, both their pings are lower than mine is. Because they actually have good internet. So it's horrific. I hate it so much. Not capture episode, just bounty. There we go. But I'm just freaking wondering now, because I tested phone tethering, and it said my pingo was only 40, so I'm gonna retest my internet after and see if my phone internet is lower latency than my cable-based internet, because it actually... There's a chance that it might actually be faster. I'm very concerned that it is indeed quicker lag. Yeah, that is what does go. That's what happened. So I'm really just curious about that particular detail. I've also been happy because Halo has been losing players, so has Battlefield. But as long as Halo loses, I don't care. I don't actually care about Battlefield being successful. Who cares if it's successful or not? I just want Halo Infinite to die horribly. Or for them to completely redesign the game to be slow. One of those two. But because they're not going to do that, and I'm going to have to live with the vehicle physics being the worst it's ever been, even compared to Halo Reach. Yeah, I hope it dies. Because the precedent for, like, vehicle-based combat is so freaking terrible because of that game. It's done the most damage to vehicle-based gameplay of any Halo game. Which is the main thing I care about in Halo games, is the vehicle-based gameplay. And it's the worst it's ever been. It's just horrific. Because Halo Reach did a lot of damage in making it where vehicles had a health pool that was very specific, instead of the hybrid health that all the previous games to Halo Reach used. So Halo Reach just did the most damage back in the day. Also, a thing Halo Reach did was they added extra weak points to tanky vehicles, where the turrets could get blown off as well. Which made it where, instead of a Spartan laser being 2 hits to kill a tank in most cases, and every now and then you'd get a kill with 1 charge. If you hit, like, the guy driving the tank, you get a insta-kill from 1 shot instead of the 2 it normally takes. I think the rocket launcher was probably the same way, but I'm not 100% sure if a rocket launcher could do it. I assume if the rocket launcher hit the right spot on the tank, it would also kill it in 1 shot. I just never had it happen or saw it happen. So that's why I'm not as confident. Okay, so also there's bandwidth issues too with the internet, because I can't maintain the bit rate. Although it might be temporarily. And also, when it says it's unstable, it doesn't always really mean anything. That might be another issue. And then, but Halo Reach introduced those problems of having total vehicle health, as well at the same time of having like extra weak spots on like the tank class vehicles, so that, oh, if you have a Spartan laser, you can shoot the tank turret. You can shoot off the tank turret, so all the tank can do is drive around and it can't shoot anymore. Which is in some ways better than killing it, because then they need to, like, destroy their tank to start to trigger its respawn timer. And until then, they're just stuck with, like, a defective tank until it dies eventually. So if the enemy team knows about that, they can just not shoot at that tank and just wait until the enemy team figure out a way to kill it off themselves. Something crazy like that. And then Halo 4 basically was identical to Reach in terms of the vehicles, except the main improvement Halo 4 made, because it just improved upon Halo Reach slightly for vehicles, was it added the Mantis, which is the first shielded vehicle, where you have a shield bar and a health bar, which was really nice, because it brought back a little bit of, like, the old vehicle gameplay where retreating from combat actually matters when you're on low health. Because you can get back survivability, whereas with the Halo Reach vehicle system, it doesn't matter what you do with a vehicle for your health. Like, if you just charge in like an idiot, you don't have any more or less survivability, whereas if you're playing defensively, you actually have more survivability if you're able to get out of fights where you're almost dying. You actually have, like, more survivability. So it brought back that a little bit. And it also just improved the vehicle physics across the board, because Halo Reach broke, like, the vehicle physics a little bit as well. It just wasn't as good as Halo 3's physics. And that the general physics didn't feel as good, and there was some bugs with the physics that were really rare, so that wasn't a huge issue at all. But it's like every now and then, like, Covenant vehicles would just go flying into the distance or get stuck inside the ground. Stuff like that. That's what was happening. And then when we get to Halo 5, it's still the same health bar system, except there's the Banshee also gets to have shields, which helped to make it really good. A lot of the vehicles got their art redesign, which I actually like the redesign of the Wraith a lot. And I like the look of the Scorpion. I don't have as much of a love for, like, the redesigned Scorpion as I do for the redesigned Wraith, because I think the smaller Wraith looks, like, amazing, and it's like, oh yeah, this makes the Wraith so much better, too, just for gameplay, because it makes it so compact. Because, like, before with the Wraith, you could maybe kind of squeeze that Wraith in to, like, narrow places, but with the new Wraith, that thing would go, like, almost anywhere a Warthog could go. Just because it was so much more compact. If you could just, you could rotate it sideways the right way and, like, squeeze it in. It was more fun to play with, and I just like the look of the design better, too. Just having, like, a more compact Wraith was like, yeah, that makes more sense, because the Wraith always felt like a not as heavy of a vehicle as, like, the Scorpion was. And now that's more reflected by, like, its actual size, and that it's, like, now appreciably smaller than the Scorpion, too. So the fact that it doesn't feel as, like, heavy-duty, so it's has the same health, because it's, you know, it's an alien vehicle using alien construction methods, so has the same health as a human tank that is, like, you know, physically larger. So it has more health, though, but its construction method isn't as good. At least our durability, because the Scorpion has the benefit of it's actually pretty light for its size. I don't think the Wraith's particularly light for its size. It's just durable for its size. So it's like different design differences between, like, the two factions now. Yeah, that was one of those things. And what was the other thing Halo 5 did? I think the physics they might have been better in 5. I'm not 100% confident to say that they were better, because it's not, like, obviously better like it was from Halo 4 to Reach, where it's like the vehicle physics were clearly better from those two games. So I have no idea. I do know that from Halo 5 to Infinite, the vehicle physics are technically worse. But it's weird, because the physics engine itself looks like it's a lot better, but the actual, you know, tuning of it is really bad. So it makes the vehicle physics look worse, because the vehicles are, like, you know, bouncy and more flighty than they are. And that, like, if you take a Warthog, go full speed with it, hit a bump, you get, like, 10 meters of air, whereas in the other Halos, it's like, that would never happen. So it's just, like... But the physics itself is, like, I can just tell from, like, looking at the Warthog when it's on the ground. When it's not flying through the air because it goes too fast. When it's actually on the ground and driving around. The actual physics handling of it looks better than, like, 3 and 5 from what I can, like, tell from looking at it. Because I really just don't want to play the game because I would hate it. It's like, I hate it enough not playing it. I don't know why playing it would make me like it more. I'd just be even more upset, if anything. Even though I did play the beta and get, like, a brief, like, usage of, like, maybe one of the vehicles I was lucky to get into, but I really did not want to use the vehicles, especially after I also had frame rate issues, and I just didn't care to even try to fix it. It's like, I don't want to fix frame rate issues for a game I don't even like that much. It's just a little nonsensical, if you ask me. And I think the guy here, he's either no, he's not flanking me, he's on the thing. He's probably setting up controls, though. Because I was just curious. Because he joined and didn't say anything, so it's like, yeah, he's probably setting stuff up and whatnot. What? Having fun. Or he is nearby, because I did see him on the radar for, like, a small time, and the fire I'm getting suspicious that one of these might actually be a person. Oh, I think he's using silent running or something. Because he keeps dropping off, like, the contacts array. Quite cursed. Just little pocos. That's where I always thought the skill was, and like aiming, it's like getting more consistent poke hits in than like the big, you know, passes. Because like the passes is like, that's just a matter of being lucky or not. Kinda, with like, oh, did you get a good pass or a bad pass? So getting more consistent small hits in is like the bigger deal in most cases, I think. But I'm really bad at getting big hits nowadays anyway, so who knows. Uh-oh. I G-lucked at a bad moment. Well, I didn't G-luck. I just black screen. I don't know if I hit it, but I think I did a decent enough job not hitting it badly. Whoa, got it. I don't have ROC on because I was killing it, yeah. Wait! Stop zooming in, you frickin' monkey. We need to go get ammo and rep. Even though we have, like, well, we have enough ammo to handle one target in case I get ganked by the AI again. Which already happened today, too. Because of course it did. I don't think there was anything else like about Infinite, because I just know the vehicle physics are just so appallingly tuned. That's just like silly. I know some of the power weapons in Infinite are better at dealing with vehicles than they used to be. Like a good example is the skewer, where I think it kills warthogs in 2 hits, which is fine, but it's like the issue is like it's a physics-based weapon. which kind of means that it's like, well, the physics effect upon attacking a warthog is going to feel kind of random, just because you're at the mercy of the physics engine. So while you could try to, like, hit it high to, like, roll it over or something, it's just kind of be a little bit inconsistent feeling, generally, I think. More often than not. Something like that. All the alarms, none of the time. Big alarm, big fun. Oh, I didn't like that pass. That was a bad one. I had, like, the feeling in my bones that's like, if you commit to that pass, you'll get hit 5 times. I've been being, like, G-locked and not able to, like, maneuver very well. I think I got hit while I was blacked out, even though... That's something I never remember is there sound effects when you're blackout and get shot? I don't think there is. Man, I think the AI are being mean. AI, why do you do this? Why are you exclusively targeting me? I think they retargeted. At least one of them retargeted something. Because they do attack each other and that causes them to retarget. The odds I'm gonna get rammed by an AI are like really high too, right? Meh, meh. There we go. Took care of it. Now we need to get more of them repairs. Oh, he went offline. Aw. I don't know why, because he specifically attacked me 2 times when I was fighting AI, so... I don't know. And then again, he never said anything either, so who knows what's going on there. Yeah, what was the other? I feel like there was something I'm trying to remember about Halo Infinite that I didn't like relating to vehicles, other than, like, well, yeah. One of the power weapons is kind of more effective against them, but it's random. Because its effectiveness is because it's physics-based. Oh, I think it's just because the infantry. It's just because they make the infantry way faster, so they made the vehicles faster to compensate, but the problem is, like, infantry are always going to be more agile than a vehicle unless it's a very, like, well-tuned vehicle, which these aren't in Halo Infinite. They're probably some of the worst. It reminds me more of, like, Halo 1 vehicles, where the tuning wasn't the best. But, I mean, I wouldn't even want to say that. I think for the physics they had, it was pretty well-tuned. It was just the physics engine itself wasn't as good. So they were a lot more limited in how good the vehicle physics could be, because that was when they made the physics engine themselves instead of using, like, a physics plugin and been tuning it from there. But that's just, like, that's kind of what it, like, the tuning reminds me of. It's like, it feels more like Halo 1 vehicles when it wasn't as polished. Which is like, yeah, I don't think that's a good sign for a 2021 game. It's like, wow, these physics remind me of physics 20 years ago. It's like, it's not a good spot. And in the moreover, it's like it reminds me of the physics 10 years ago and how much better that was. That's like the current Halo Infinite vehicle physics situation. It's not a good spot for it at all. It's not healthy. Very unhealthy. It needs help. Milk. Also, I don't know if Fernando kept the silent running to make their nameplate blink or not, because I saw he had silent running equipped, but I didn't notice him use it. So, the main reason I wouldn't notice him is because it hides my pip, which is already hidden anyway. It's like, it's turned off. Permanently. As well as the crosshairs. The crosshairs, it's not very helpful when you can't even see where to aim it at. I mean, to be fair to Busan, it's to blame. But I think, well, I want to say about the infantry and Halo, it's just because they're faster and they have agile in that you have infinite rotation speed using your mouse, so you can rotate your Spartan whatever direction you want as fast as you can, like, physically do it with your mouse, because it's uncapped rotation speed. So that means you can, like, swivel anywhere you want instantly and run at full speed, so that's what I mean by more agility. Because you might have a vehicle with, like, a strafe, so it can go left and right, but you're not gonna go left and right a lot slower than an infantry can just spin and run at you at, like, full sprint. Like, he's gonna be able to catch you and hijack you. And because he has, like, the faster movement compared to other games, generally the risk of you getting boarded is, like, way, way higher in Halo Infinite than it is in the other Halos. Like, you have a way higher risk of getting boarded than you would in the others. So that's just another point, and, like, vehicles just getting weaker, is that, well, you're more vulnerable to boarding action. You also have, for the first time, you have, like, a sniping weapon that does EMP. Because, I mean, a plasma pistol, like, yeah, you can snipe with a plasma pistol in the old Halos and EMP across the map, but this is, like, a purpose-made, like, sniping weapon where it's easy to EMP across the map. So that's something you'd have to put up with in a tank, is in big team battle, if the enemy team's coordinated, and they're gonna have a guy taking the EMP sniper specifically to use against vehicles, and every now and then get a headshot kill in infantry. But the whole point is to use it against vehicles. We need to evade the thing. Oh, I'm gonna reload and, like, see if there's any spooky comments, because who knows? There might be some spooky comments. I'm talking about, like, the HunterNet one. Because Days is being very dead. Yeah, frickin' Days. Why are you so dead? Okay, there's nothing spooky. Good. The last thing I want to do is something moderator related while I'm streaming. It's never happened yet, though. The only reason I'm a moderator is because I'm one of the moderators that'd be willing to talk to people in voice if there was an issue that ever came up. That's, like, the main reason. So it's like, I'm the moderator that you see if you're in big trouble. That's essentially what it is. Like, if you do something so bad that there needs to be someone talking to you, yeah, that's what the reason I'm one of them is more than anything else, because Days is basically the exact same time zone as me, and he's more active on the Discord too, but he doesn't like to talk. So basically, the plan his days will actually be paying attention to the moderating. I mean, I still pay attention. He just pays more attention. And then if he needs to, like, yell at somebody, well, not really that. It's more just, like, talking calmly to people in voice. It's like, that's when he yells at me to take care of it or whatever. That's the plan. And then every now and then, I'll get thrown a DM by somebody in the Discord. Or they just have, like, an issue come up, and then I just, like, you know, work on it. Because the last thing I want to do is, like, yell at some other moderator to do it for me. Because to me, it's like, what's the point? Like, I could have done this myself in the time it takes me to whine about it. I could have just solved it myself just because I want to be lazy. Because I know one time I got DM'd about someone new who joined the Discord, just DMing people and scamming them. So I just verified that they joined the server like 30 minutes ago. That they never ever said any like words in the Discord. It's like, yes, we'll disband it. Because he sent screenshots too. It's like, yeah, all signs point to that person existed entirely, the ban, especially since they didn't try to defend their case of like DMing me, because a scammer typically wouldn't do that, because it's more, if you're scamming people, it makes more sense if you get kicked from a Discord server just to move on to the next one and don't try to fight the mods over it. It's like, no, just move on to the next one. Who cares? There's like a million Discord servers. If, like, and that's understanding it. Like, if you get caught scamming, just move on to the next one. And then one day, the Discord will eventually catch wind of why you're getting banned from all these servers. And then they'll probably delete your account. And then you just make a new one at that point, but, you know. Oh, hey, it's like I did my part to inconvenience the scammer, which is like the most you're gonna do without putting more effort into it yourself. Is like the most you're gonna be able to accomplish is inconveniencing them. Which is good, though, because if you're inconveniencing scammers, that's gonna reduce the amount of scammers willing to, like, just scam. Because that small inconvenience will be enough to stop some of the scammers from scamming. And by some of the scammers, I mean just, like, ordinary people deciding that are fed up with their job that doesn't pay, so they're like, I'm just gonna scam people now. Because it earns, like, 3 times the money and 1/3 the time of my current job. And then it's like, they usually feel bad about scamming, and then when they're also getting inconvenienced every now and then by, like, you know, moderators kicking them automatically like they should, then it's like, that's when they give up. Like, scamming. And then the only people who scam are the people that are like, you know, they don't even like feel bad doing it, essentially. So when you're adding that little bit of inconvenience, you're at least preventing people that are like on the fence about scamming. That's what's gonna like tip them over to, like, you know, stop doing that nonsense. And then someone who's actually, like, you know, good with computers and just like, and by good with computers, I mean like hacking to an extent. Because all hacking is, it's just like knowing how a computer works and knowing how the program they're using works as well as you possibly can. And then, because you know the program well, you know how to exploit it, and you're just taking advantage of that. And in some cases, you're so good that you can write your own programs to exploit stuff for you. You don't even have to take advantage of something manually. You can just code something to do that for you. And then if you're really good, you can create a virus out of nothing that just causes, like, horrific agony to everyone. Or, in most cases, launders money from a bank or something. Without it being traceable. Which is very fucking hard to do. I don't think anyone's done that in, like, either recently or ever, and if they did, then no one knew they did it, basically. If someone successfully laundered the bank with a computer virus, we don't know they did it, because the bank would never admit to that actually happening, unless they're stupid. So it'd be like some third-rate country's bank that no one cares about. Like the one time that, like, there was, like, a person who worked for the bank where there was a scammer trying to commission, like, a loan out of them to build, like, a fake airport. And he actually got them to, like, do it. And then they eventually figured out that it was a scam and they got their money back. But, like, That was a little crazy. And the guy who, like, did the scam got arrested. Because you can't just casually take, like, 500 million from a bank and have that be fine. Like, no, they're gonna figure out where that money went. You're not hiding 500 million dollars. Like, that bank has so much motivation to chase you down and get their money back, like they have the time and the money and you don't. Like, you don't have time and you have a limited supply of money, whereas that bank has all the time in the world and the money. It's just kind of like how the FBI works. It's like, you can say what they want about the FBI, but they have the time and they have the money, so more than likely they're gonna discover what you're doing eventually, if they have an active interest in investigating you. It's like they have the time and money and you don't. Because the whole reason you're doing shady activity is to get money, because you don't have it. So that's kind of like the same philosophy there, I believe. Oh, I will need ammo soon. I just wish I was more accurate with guns. Very bad at hitting stuff. I mean, I do feel like the pip will, like, suddenly solve all the problems I have, but it's like, using the pip just feels really boring. Like, it just makes it feel really easy to be, just to aim. It's like, I just don't like it anymore. It was like about 8 months ago when, like, using no pip was like an option. It's like, yeah, I tried it, never went back. Just because it's like, it just feels so much more fun. Because I'm used to a lot of shooters, like, being that way. Like, in Battlefield, it's like, you don't have a pip for using, like, vehicle weapons. It's like, you don't have a pip for infantry weapons. Like, most of the shooters you play, you don't have a pip. Which is probably why I like not having it more, because it's like only a thing in, like, some six-off games, because in Overload, you don't have a pip either, and that's a arcadey six-off game. It's like the only, like, arcadey six-off that has, like, a decent pip is, like, Star Conflict. But that game has hit scan weapons in it too, which it's like, at that point, it's like, well, the pip doesn't really help anymore now, does it? Because it's a hit scan weapon, you just point at the ship. And that's all you need to do in that situation. Although Star Conflict probably needs the pip more because the movement system is so crazy and silly. To where it's like, yeah, the people are such spastic lunatics on top of having a ship that enables them to be spastic lunatics. You need as much aim assist as you can get in that game. It's like any ability that's auto-targeting is, like, usually really good just against the frickin' tides of spastic, crazy interceptor pilots. And, to an extent, spastic, crazy fighter pilots as well, because the interceptors are more evasive than the fighters are, but the fighters are not a slouch, and if they outfit them the right way, the fighters will be almost as evasive as the interceptors are. Especially if the interceptors are trying to, like, go for, like, having extra survivability or something in that game. It's a fun game, though. It's a really fun game, though. I just wish that it was better designed and not bloated and not a money sink. Like, a Star Conflict was, like, a $60 game, and it had no, like, pay to win anymore. It had no, like, insane levels of grind, and they fixed the game design so that the classes are more balanced with each other instead of just interceptors being generally better and fighters also just generally just being better than, like, the bigger ships. Apart from destroyers in, like, specific circumstances, but, like, just, like, allowing it to be imbalanced and designing the game knowing that your classes are going to be imbalanced instead of trying to make it symmetrical while having it be asymmetrical. Because essentially, Star Conflict, they want it to be symmetrical and asymmetrical at the exact same time. And they're not very good at it. They're competent at it, and that's about it. Because I think something like Overwatch does a better job of being symmetrical and asymmetrical at the same time. And all I mean by, like, symmetrical and asymmetrical, it's when you have, like, every player in the game being the same value, so everyone's worth, like, 1 kill or 1 point, and has the same, like, res time and everything. So, like, the players are worth the same, but what they choose to play as has, like, strengths and weaknesses that are different. So so what you play as is asymmetrical, but in terms of like the game scoring, everyone's worth the same as far as the game scoring is concerned, but in the game itself, it's asymmetrical. Because what Star Conflict wants to do, it wants a destroyer, so a ship that's like 200 times larger than the interceptor, to be the exact same power level as that interceptor is. So that interceptor and that destroyer have the exact same chance of killing each other, and that's like the intended balance. And it makes no sense, because it's like, it'd be way better if destroyers were like higher value targets or something. Just like anything. Than like an interceptor at the very minimum. Because I think the main thing you could do is like, well, you could have like squads of interceptors. So you could be like, if you choose to play as an interceptor, you play as 4 interceptors at the same time. You control one of them, the other 3 are AI, and then if you die in your interceptor, you just instantly control like another one in your squad. Something like that. I think that would probably work better. And then if you play as a frigate, you're just 1 frigate, essentially. And if you play as a destroyer, you're 1 destroyer, except you have a shit ton of penalties to, like... You're worth, like, 5 kills as a destroyer, or something like that. And you have, like, big penalties for dying as well. It's like... Or you can have it be, like, similar to Titanfall, where it's like... You, get rewarded based on kills for putting in, like, stuff. Because what Titanfall does is... Everyone gets, like, their Titan at, like, a fixed, like, time. So it's, like, a 5-minute timer to getting your Titan out. But every time you get a kill, you get your Titan timer instantly shortened by 30 seconds. That was, like... That's at least how Titanfall 1 works. I don't know how much they changed it in Titanfall 2. I never paid enough attention. I assume it's very similar. So you could have it in StarCon, it could be like, oh, if you play as an interceptor, if you get like all these kills, you can get your destroyer out like sooner. Because destroyers are like, oh, that's something you have to like build up into. You can't play a destroyer from the beginning of the game. They're like more mid-game, end-game, you know, pushing tools. They're not like just something you can use all the time. Unless you're really good at the game to where once you get in a destroyer, you're never getting out of the destroyer unless the enemy team are really good at countering. Something like that. Or better yet, you can just have destroyers be something that aren't crewed by 1 player. You can have it be where it's something given to the team that needs 2 to 3 people to crew it effectively. So you have 3 players tied up in 1 unit instead of 3 players in 3 separate units. That's another way you could balance it, just to make it like completely asymmetrical, which is the easiest way to balance it. It's a wild day. Yeah, he was playing Battlefield 4 toxically earlier. It's horrifying. Frickin' Star Conflicts. I don't know. It's like Star Conflicts like one of the main games where it's like I wish I was in charge of designing it so badly. Like, I'd care way more about designing that game than HunterNet, because it'd be like, oh yeah, Star Conflict, I could fix her up in like no time with ideas alone. I mean, it's just because I know the actual staff are competent. Like, yeah, they can do what they want. They just are stuck doing what like the leadership wants them to, and the leadership seem to be the dumb part. Where all they want to be is just a, you know, somewhat gacha-esque game, and it's like all it's ever gonna be. That like it has some good like elements here and there. Like it has really good PvE. It has like a lot of variety. The difficulty balancing needs a lot of work though, but the actual concept for having like, you know, varied PvE and like different types of PvE missions when you just queue for PvE, like having the maps be like really, really different from each other just in terms of like what your objectives even are. It's like, oh yeah, that's really cool. That's quite nice. And it's quite nice to keep like the old PvE missions that were made in 2012 because they're still like designed differently than the ones made in 2020. So just keeping the old missions, because they're still like unique because they had a different design philosophy back then for the PvE. So they're really fun to play still. Just because those are when, like, having 3-part missions, like, that was how they were doing it. That was, like, the idea was to have every mission play in 3 parts. So you complete the first part, you go to the second part after a load screen and whatnot. And then, in, like, 2015, they decided, oh, how about we try doing a 1-part mission where every time you kill, like, a fixed number of enemies instead of infinitely respawning enemies. And that's, like, the whole point of the mission is you kill the fixed number of enemies, and once you do that, then it will spawn in the next wave of AI for you to kill. And that spawns the next wave of AI, like, further in the map, so you're forced to move through the map to kill the AI. And that was, like, the philosophy they had in 2015. And they made, like, 3 missions in that style. But they still kept the old, like, 3-act missions that they originally made. Because there was, like, 7 of them, so, I mean, getting rid of them would be a little... You get rid of a lot of game just getting rid of them. And then I think in 2017 was when they decided, okay, let's have it be non-linear. So instead of having the PvE be not like linear missions, we'll have it where you have a side objectives that can change the your primary objective, as well as failing your primary objective or completing your primary objective gives you different primary objectives. So if you fail a part, it can either be harder or easier in some cases. Sometimes completing the primary objective makes it harder, but you get better rewards from it or something like that because you're doing well. So it's like higher reward, even though the challenge is higher. Because if the challenge will be higher, it's like, well, when you fail it, it's like then you get it's like the other path of like the way to complete the mission. And there's some objectives where it's like you can't fail. If you fail, you're dead. Like that's how it works. But some of the objectives are like they are failable and they don't instantly end the game. It just takes you down a different pathway. As well as some side objectives just give you like a flat bonus of money and crap. Like that was what they did too. It's just a lot of fun. It's just a lot of fun how it's like every few years when they get ready to make new PvE missions, they just like change their design philosophy. While still keeping all the old stuff, which is perfectly reasonably designed. Like, I'd say the new stuff is better, just in terms of it's more complex. But it doesn't mean that the 3-act missions that are perfectly linear with infinitely respawning AI and they're, like, purely objective-based, where it's like, you just gotta get those objectives. It's like, yeah, they're still fun. Like, they're not suddenly, like, obsolete or anything. And they're, like, really good variety, too. And plus, they still rebalance the old missions every now and then. It's just the only problem is, like, it's just the overall balance is just screwed, because the overall balance is just to make the stats on high levels insane so that you're compelled to either break the game or break your bank trying to pay up for getting better stat ships to actually handle the high difficulty. So they don't die instantly and they actually have enough DPS to kill anything. Or, the other way, which is why I brought up exploiting, is you don't necessarily have to kill anything in any of the missions. You just have to sneak past the AI and kill only the objectives in, like, half the missions. So, you can get away with just, like, speedrunning it and, like, rushing through it as fast as possible using stealth. And not, like, attacking anything. Whereas the normal way to do a mission is to slowly go through and, you know, kill what you need to kill in terms of AI to stop them from harassing you. That's, like, the intended way to play it, but because they make it so unreasonably hard on the high levels, that's when exploiting is, like, really popular, and that's when it starts trickling down to the lower levels, because at the lower levels, if you exploit it, you can get the mission done in, like, half the time and double your income, essentially, which is really important because it's a gacha-esque game. So if you can double your free income, that's, like, a massive help to you getting through the frickin' game. Because the whole point of, like, the game is, like, the whole point is just to push through it. Because it's a giant grind. Even though the game itself is, like, really fun, it's, like, it's well fleshed out enough to where it's, like, it doesn't need to be a gacha game. Like, you could just make it, like, a normal game at this point. And instead of having it be like so focused on like the grinding, you could have it like be more focused on like the more moment-to-moment gameplay instead of just having everything revolve around the grind. Even though you have a really good foundation. To just make like a well-playing, like, you know, deathmatch game with PvE and clan wars that are like, you know, different, like higher stakes deathmatches and whatnot. Because the clan fights they went with are also really cool. This where both sides get like a giant capital ship, and the whole point of the battle is to help your capital ship win against the enemy one. Like, yeah, it's just a lot of fun. Yeah, you go eat your lunch, you toxic. No help to me at all. You just exist here, steal my kills, and then you go eat food. It's so helpful. Like freaking oxygen feed. Also, the other thing with Halo, just while I like go back to it, is Halo 3 also recently got its mod tools out. So I'm just way more interested in what modders will do than anything the actual AAA studio can do with the new game. It's like, I have so much more faith in actual modders to produce something that's just interesting and enjoyable and like actually like fun to play instead of just mediocre and inferior to like almost any other game that's out there that's FPS. Like, because like I'd never recommend like Halo Infinite is like a free game. I'd be like, honestly, it's like, I'd say Halo Infinite is maybe a little bit better than Destiny 2, just because, well, Destiny 2 at least has like good PvE. It's like Halo Infinite, it's like the PvE is awful. So, I mean, if you only were interested in killing AI, it's like, go play Destiny 2 if you're only looking at free-to-play games. Or Warframe, it's like, well, Warframe is better if you want, like, that fast-paced gameplay, because all Warframe is, it's just a DPS meta. So it's like, it's fantastic if you like killing everything really fast, but if you want any level of slower gameplay, it's like, yeah, you need to play Destiny 2, because at least in Destiny 2, it's also, everyone's a DPS, and there's no tanking or anything. And in the tanking that there is, it's so minimal, it's basically unviable. It's just a, you know, it's pure DPS. It's a typical shooter where everyone's a DPS. And at least it's just slower paced gameplay compared to Warframe, so you'd like it more. And also Destiny 2 has decent PvP, whereas Warframe has like horrific PvP from what I last heard, so. Has horrifically bad PvP. Just where the game balance just ruins it completely. It's like, at least Destiny 2. It's like, Destiny 2 has, like, PvP close to Halo Infinite. So, it's like... So, Destiny 2 is just the most well-rounded of, like, the free-to-play shooters that are, like, the ones that are the most worth your time. And I'd say I kind of consider Halo Infinite in last place with those three shooters. Because Destiny 2, like... Yeah, I don't like Destiny 2. Like, I hate it a lot more than, Halo Infinite, but I can admit that Destiny 2 actually has PvE elements to it that are good. Whereas Halo Infinite has, like, versus AI on the PvP maps, and the AI is also not... It's not AI that's in any way designed to be AI, it's just basically trained AI using the player data, so the AI just feels like fighting players to an extent. Because it's essentially just trying to copy player data the best it can. So you kind of just feel like you're still fighting against humans, so you feel like you might as well just fight against real humans, because at least real humans would be more imperfect with their basic movements, at least. Because the AI is trying to copy humans, but it's copying humans to the skill level of an AI has in terms of just being able to do inputs. Because I don't think they had the sense to, like, cap the AI's, like, inputs at all. I think it's literally just an AI that has no restrictions on it at all, emulating human behavior. So it's just... It just doesn't feel as, like, fun to fight against, because it's not... designed in any way. It's just... If it's good, it's by coincidence, because that's how it was made. It was made entirely off of automatic systems that have minimal human, involvement. So playing, Destiny 2, a game where every AI is coded to behave a specific way, so that you as the player are meant to fight it a specific way for every AI, it just feels a lot better because it's actually designed out instead of not designed whatsoever. So that's the main point that, like, Destiny has over Halo Infinite. And even when Halo Infinite gets the campaign's a paid-for thing. It's not free. Destiny 2, it's like, yeah, it's... Parts of the campaign are free, because you still need to buy the DLCs, I think. It's really weird how Destiny 2 works, because it's, like, it's very over-monetized. It's worse on the monetization than Infinite, I think. I'm not sure about that, though, because Infinite's also really bad. In terms of monetization, Warframe wins in that category, in that Warframe has the least intrusive monetization, but it's not like the monetization in Warframe's particularly good. It's just better than the horrific systems everyone else uses. Because Warframe has scummy things about it too, like the trading system is really scummy. Because the trading system is basically there to incentivize you to spend the real money instead of using the trading system. It's just there so that you feel like you can get stuff through the trading system, when in reality, it's just encouraging you to use the premium currency, because the trading system, it's like, well, you gotta wait for someone to sell something. You have to beat everyone to the punch and actually buying the thing that they're selling. And then, ultimately, you either need to buy the premium currency so that you can actually use the trading system faster than everyone else can, so that you can... Because if someone puts something on demand, like 10 people are going to see that and try to buy it. But, so, if you don't have enough premium currency on hand, you can get screwed over through the trading system. Because you're not going to have the money to buy it instantly, and other people are. So when something valuable actually goes up on the trade, you can't even buy it. And it's just going to get snatched from someone else that happened to have enough premium currency to buy it as soon as it went up. Just because he noticed it at the same time you did. And conversely, that's why private trading is kind of popular in Destiny, because the public trading is like, yeah, the public trading is what's scummy. The private trading is better, but private trading has taxes on it in the form of you get taxed for your non-premium currency. So that's why, yeah, private trading's better, because you can, like, arrange for a specific person to buy a specific thing. You don't have to worry about fighting people in the public trading just, like, to see who could click faster and who can, like, buy more premium currency just to make sure he can, like, shut down anyone who hasn't bought premium currency to have enough on hand at any given moment to buy something that's really, really valuable when it goes up. And so that makes you realize that it's, like, between your options of just paying for it with premium currency and that you're just going to buy the premium currency to get what you want, which you can do for a few items, like some of the primes every now and then are available with premium currency, and some of the basic unlocks are available with premium currency, and a lot of the guns are available with premium currency. Even though everything in the game is obtainable in-game through gameplay, not even including the trade system, you can just grind it out, but, like, it's specifically designed so that you feel like you're encouraged to go the paying money route instead of the going free route. And the going free route only exists as, like, an excuse for how hard it actually is to get stuff in-game. In fact, like, there's the other scummy part of, like, you could argue that the reason you can get stuff in-game even though it's ludicrously hard is because they know that people are crazy enough to spend an unrealistic amount of time getting stuff the freeway because it's the freeway, even though in reality, if they just got a minimum wage job and they worked that job for the hours they would have played in-game, and then they spent all the money from that job they worked on premium currency, they would be like 3 to 4 times further in the game than they would be. So from like so if all you really care about is like doing the grind, you couldn't care less about the gameplay. It's like, because I know there's people like that where it's like they just want to get everything for free. It's like you're getting played for a fool, because it would have been smarter for you to just work more hours or work a second job and just do that instead. If all you really care about is just the grind. Because then you get to skip it all. Like, really, really fast. But the benefit to them for getting you to play so long is like, well, it inflates their play time and their player count. So it makes their game look like really, really popular. When in reality, if all these people like knew that they were wasting their time to an extent, if they weren't enjoying the gameplay in the moment, they were just liking the idea of they could get something for free if they just put all this time into it. And that's just completely like blindsided them to like any other options they have for like getting the stuff they want in game. So it's like, yeah, you're getting played for a fool in that instance. Because that's like, because what like a company like Digital Extremes, they either want you to be a free-to-play player that puts a shit ton of time in the game. That's like good for them. That's something they want. They want you invested with as much time as possible, even if you're not going to pay up any money. That's still good for them. And then their more preferred outcome is they want you to like pay up money to like get something premium. They always want that, obviously. That's the best outcome for them. But if they can't get your money, they sure as hell want to get as much of your time as they can. That's like their secondary goal. And if they can like put like half-assed measures like a trading system to like make the people in the game argue in favor of the game being like, oh, actually it's really friendly monetization to the players, if they can get people to like defend it too, just for like doing the most like bare minimum basic ways to make the game more, you know, monetization friendly, even though it's really not that much better, then that's even better, because then they have all these people spending tons and tons of time. You have people on Steam with like 5,000 hours leaving positive reviews saying, oh, this game's amazing, how you can get everything you want just from playing it. It's like the only free-to-play game where you can do that. And then people see that, they see that this guy's played for 5,000 hours, they're like, wow, this game must be amazing, when it's really just like a decent game. It's not an amazing game, it's like at best an okay game. Like, most games are at best okay. And if you really think about them, they end up being bad because they have horrifying flaws that, like, really just take the rest of the game with them. Because I think the best example is Battlefield 2042, where everyone's like, oh, the game's really terrible. It's like, no, it's not. It's just fine. It's just this time, the horrifying flaws that the game has are flaws that are a big deal to you. But in the grand scheme of the game, the flaws it has don't make the game suddenly terrible. They just make it average. Or, you know, just, like, slightly bad, so like a 4 out of 10. It's like, the flaws don't make it the 8th worst game of all time, which is what people are thinking, and that's why, for a time, that's like its rating on Steam. It was literally the 8th worst reviewed game of all time, which is completely ludicrous and very inaccurate and unfair. So it's like, no. Like, you can't tell me, especially on Steam, where, like, there's at least 1 million games on Steam where they were made with stolen, like, assets that someone just paid money to put in his game. Like, they're just asset flippers. Someone just paid to have the whole game made for him, and he did no work himself, and it's just a nightmare to... because nothing, like, looks, like, correct or anything. It's like, yeah, Battlefield's a competently made game, regardless of, like, the design decisions they made. Like, the game itself is competently made. Like, you can't compare it to these games that are just, like, made by people who have, like, not even the slightest, like, bit of education or knowledge on what a game even is, when there's at least, like, a couple million of them on Steam. So at a minimum, Battlefield would have to be better than at least those games, which should mean that, like, if you're rating it as the 8th worst game on Steam, that means that about 999,000 of those games exist entirely to launder money. It's like, you're saying that those are better. That's essentially what's going on there. You're saying that that is actually of superior quality. And it's like, yeah. there's not even that many AAA games. Like, you'd have to take, like, games like Ride to Hell Retribution, like, infamously bad games, and those are the only ones that could come close to the Drek that's on Steam. Like, in terms of, like, a higher profile bad game, and even then, I don't think Ride to Hell Retribution was even AAA. Or you have to take, like, the launch version of No Man's Sky. Like, No Man's Sky, a day one No Man's Sky. Like, okay, that is maybe, like, I still wouldn't even say that is as bad as a majority of the games on Steam that are just asset flips. Because those are still just worse, just because it's like, well, No Man's Sky was actually made by people who were competent at making a game. And it was actually, like, intentional gameplay design, which is more than I can say for those other games. It's like they had no intentional, like, effort whatsoever. Like, essentially, they're only, like, the vaguest sense above just being randomly generated in terms of a game. Like, it's only, like, somewhat better than that in terms of, like, the quality of the game. So that's why it's really weird that it's, like, Battlefield 2042 comes out. It's a similar quality to most AAA games in the last, like, 4-ish years, and yet that's the one everyone's like, oh, this is, like, the worst game of all time, actually. It's like, you're insane. It's like, it's not really that much different. It's just because it has different issues than what you are used to for your AAA games that it suddenly feels a lot worse than it is. Alright. Okay, anyway. I've had my fulfillment playing El Hunternets during the Drought Part 2. I call it Drought Part 2 just because there was no update last Sunday, so I thought it was funny to call it Drought Part 2. That's literally it. So, anyway, thank you for watching.